It's Monday, October 7th, and I replayed Life is Strange Remastered version, Episode 1, Chrysalis. I'm replaying Life is Strange, the remastered version, because the calendar dates match up. I'm replaying Life is Strange. Have fun. So, before I get started with sharing my thoughts on episode 1, I want to quickly read you the story summary from the Life is Strange wiki. Episode 1, Chrysalis. On October 7th, Max finds out she can rewind time when she uses it to save her old friend Chloe from being shot by Nathan Prescott. They later reunite, and Max senses that a storm is coming after getting premonitions. The first thought that hit me when starting my replay journey of Life is Strange was that knowing what the game will put you through, that soft little acoustic music in the title screen is almost misleading, to say the least. Like, wow. That's the first thought that I had when I started replaying it. And another thing that actually took me by surprise is that I almost forgot how great the whole audio design is when Max leaves the classroom and then puts in her earphones and the whole audio of the hall and all the students' chatter gets like all muffled, and then she turns on the music, which also starts this great journey of this amazing soundtrack that this game has, and that's just so cool. And the next scene is something that made me just stop in my tracks and be like, yeah, that's not possible. And I mean, I know I'm talking about a game with time travel mechanics and magical destiny storms that tear down whole towns because you messed with whatever. But it's not that easy to rip a Polaroid. Like, have you ever tried to rip a Polaroid? No. That's not... You can't rip Polaroids. I mean, you can, probably, if you're a bodybuilder or something, or like, I don't know, the Incredible Hulk. Also, don't shake them. I read somewhere that you shouldn't shake Polaroid pictures because it messes with the chemistry that's making the Polaroid work do what they do. Just a little PSA, don't shake your Polaroid pictures like in that song and like Max does in the game. Don't shake your Polaroid pictures if you take Polaroid pictures. Like, seriously, you can't rip Polaroid pictures? How do you know how sturdy that stuff is? No. I doubt Max could actually rip a real Polaroid picture. Also, that stuff is expensive. Why would you fucking rip something like that? Like, just don't enter with the picture into the contest. You don't have to destroy it. It's a cool picture. That's just like something that I had to... That made me stop in my tracks. And the next thing is when Max leaves the bathroom after pulling the fire alarm. I think, obviously David is like, he has issues, and but I think it's a little bit played over the top to make him absolutely seem like a super suspicious douche canoe with all the surveillance and stuff, and almost near paranoia that everyone always is up to something and stuff. But what do you expect? Like, if a fire alarm goes off and I'm on a toilet, of course I'm taking some time to get out because, dude, I have to put on my pants again and everything. Like, it's not that easy. Have you seen Max's outfit? All the layers and her cute little messenger bag? You don't put on some... If she was really on the toilet, like, it would seem if she came out of the door. And then he goes and shouts at her, "What are you doing there? Get out! There's obviously an alarm going on." And then she says to him, like, "I was on the toilet, I am allowed to be in there." And I think it's just a little bit like, I feel like he's made, and he is not a good guy, but he's not a bad guy either. And his behavior definitely needs some changing, which I'm not gonna spoil something that happens elsewhere. Even though this is not a spoiler-free podcast, but I'm trying to keep spoilers from other games in the series out of this, but obviously Life is Strange 1 will be spoiled in this. And I feel like this game, and this has also... and now we're slowly starting to get into somewhat of the biggest criticism that some people might have about this game, because technically, depending on what you do in the last episode, none of your choices actually matter because, well, stuff like that. And I feel like it's just such a weird situation, and then the next weird situation happens, which also leads you to your first big decision that introduces there's this flashing screen of do this or that, and then, the whole butterfly with this action will have consequences, and Max's inner dialogue if what she just did was the right thing, and it often happens before you even leave, like, an area. So if you leave the area after making that decision, there's definitely no going back from even rewinding and picking the other choice. And the thing with the Principal Wells choice here, I think, is really complicated, but also such a good lead up to what this whole game will be like. So you can either tell him the truth that you saw Nathan with a gun in there, and then he's all like, yeah, but the Prescotts, they're such an honored family here and everything, and Nathan is such a good student. And he just doesn't believe Max. But he also doesn't believe Max if she says, no, it's nothing, I'm just feeling a little bit sick, girl issues. And then he also is talking down on her, being like, oh, you always say that, you girls and teens and whatever, like, you're clearly hiding something. And that bit just leaves you with a little bit, and not in a negative way towards the game, but like towards the situation. Like it doesn't do something to the quality of the game, but that situation just leaves you with a bad feeling, which I think is really good storytelling in that case, because it does something to you. Because when you first pick one choice and then rewind after the bad situation happened and pick the other one, and the outcome is just similarly bad, it's just so disappointing, and you can't do anything, and there's actually no right choice. I mean, in my opinion, the right choice is to report Nathan, because, not to sound like some weirdest surveillance state propaganda or something, but if you see something, say something. This doesn't go for when people steal baby food, okay? If you see someone shoplifting baby food, you haven't seen anything. Understand? And then when you get out, you're on the schoolyard, or like, not really schoolyard, like, it's a schoolyard, but more like a little green area with benches to sit on. There's probably like more areas around Blackwell Academy that you could hang out at. Like, that's just like the green area before the entrance of the school. And then you're hit with the next choice, and to be honest, I didn't remember what the right choice was there, technically, in the meta thinking of playing a game. Just like I didn't remember what the right choice would have been with the whole telling Principal Wells or not telling him. I think the right thing was to tell Nathan, even though that leads to like some problems with all Nathan being all angry and stuff at Max and sending her the death threats and stuff. But that's something for future episodes. And there's this professor, and I should have written down her name because I already forgot, even though I've just played it. And she wants you to sign the petition against David's surveillance cameras on campus. And on the one hand, I feel like, yeah, people should just be able to go on their daily lives without like surveillance and stuff, because that makes people feel like they're already being under suspicion of doing something, and that's definitely not the right way to go. But on the other hand, just like Max said to the professor, surveillance cameras probably would have helped Rachel. Or maybe even if they didn't help her, it would at least have solved the mystery of her disappearance earlier, because people would have seen who she was last with. But that mystery solution is also part of a future episode, so I'm not getting too deep into that. And I don't even know if that had some bigger repercussions for the future episodes, but I chose not to sign the petition. And also, can we talk about that Max is kind of a piece of shit, like the whole scene with the skater boys and her making one of them do that tray flip and then him getting hurt, and she just goes, walks over, and takes a picture of that guy rolling on the floor, holding the part that he got hurt with the skateboard at. And there's not even an option to just say, "Hey guy, I'm sorry you got hurt." And that's kind of weird. Also, it's cool to just like be able to interact with all the other students, like going through one of your classmates' portfolio, and it seems like almost everyone has to say something about Rachel Amber, which makes her be that figure of mystery and stuff. And you have all those missing person posters everywhere, and everyone kind of always talks about her, and like that one guy who always draws stuff, she was his muse. And then there's the other guy, I think it was Ethan, and the drawing guy was Daniel. And they all had something to do with Rachel Amber, and that's definitely a good lead up to later in the episode. And the whole thing with getting into the dormitory was kinda weird. Like, I get that Victoria is a bad person. But she's a great character. She's a bad person, but she's a great character. Like, I just love to hate her. Also, I would love for some... Actually, I don't really remember if she gets some redemption, but I think not. She's just always made out to be that boss bitch. And like how she treats her friends basically like slaves, and being so mean to Kate. But credit where credit is due. "Why don't you go fuck yourself?" is a great line. Like, that's cool. And even though Victoria is such a bad person, I really do like the comforting Victoria scene a lot more, even though she just ends up ruining it literally a second after the short dialogue with Max ends by complaining about how long her friends take to bring her a towel to clean her cashmere pullover. And yeah. And the other one, when you make fun of her, oh boy, that just feels dangerous. Like the whole "I know where you live" and Nathan does too. And especially in the route that I've taken, that Max had reported Nathan to Principal Wells. That was bad. And then on top of that, choosing to make fun of Victoria and her going all like, yeah, you're gonna pay for that, I know where you live, and so does Nathan. That's just bad. So, for that part, I definitely choose to comfort Victoria. Even though the game instantly makes you regret it on your quest to retrieve the flash drive, with the whole thing she pulled with Dana and that quarterback. And I don't know if he was a quarterback, he was a football player, and like, the whole cheerleader drama and everything. Like, there are some parts that make Victoria definitely a likable person, but usually a second later she just ruins it, which is kinda sad, but also makes her such an interesting character. And yeah, you go on your whole quest to get the flash drive and that whole school drama with the pregnancy and the abortion and stuff. It's like, wow. And to get back to something I've said earlier about Polaroids being expensive, I'm going to try to remember to count how many photos Max takes throughout the entire game, and then calculate how much that costs. Also, I'm going to count every photo on her Polaroid wall that she has as a backdrop for her Everyday Heroes picture. And I wanna just look at that, because she also mentioned that her parents got her a $200 gift card for her birthday, which is a lot, in my opinion. And she always, like, kinda, in her thoughts, talks down on Victoria, how expensive everything is that she owns and stuff. And, like, I mean, Victoria's parents own an art gallery, so maybe they're, like, rich, and definitely have a good source to spoil her, and maybe that also made her who she is, an entitled person. But I've came to wonder how much Max pays for her Polaroids, because I think in the long run, just taking so many Polaroid pictures, it's gotta end up being probably just as expensive as the equipment that Victoria owns, and that is something you buy, in the best case, once, and then use for years. Max has a constant returning cost for her photography, and and then criticizing Victoria or being jealous of her for her expensive stuff. Thinking about it now, just like deep diving into the whole episode and what's happening there, definitely feels weird and kinda hypocritical. Also, like, can we talk about when you give back Warren that flash drive and he goes in for a hug and almost gets stabbed by Max holding out the flash drive? He is weird. Like, no offense, some people say he's maybe a little bit neurotypical, neurodiverse, I mean, and so calling him out for that behavior would, like, be not so nice because it's not his fault, but also neurodiversity shouldn't be an excuse for being a weirdo. Like, it's a reason, but it's not an excuse in a way. Like, you can still control sometimes, depending on what you have. Like, there's definitely some neurodiversity issues that make you not control what you say, but that you probably know what I mean. Like, I don't want to say the word, but Rowan kind of gives me incel vibes. Like the whole, when Max says, oh, you're sensitive, when they talk about like movies and Warren's reaction to something and then being all weirded out by the word sensitive, and this conversation about like, oh, you don't like the word sensitive? Yeah, I mean, it usually means I won't be having sex with you. And like, why bring that up? Why be such a weirdo to someone you know for like maybe a few weeks? Like the school year, if I remember correctly from reading in Max's journal, started in like September, and I think the time span of like 3 weeks was definitely somewhere in the air, and either in dialogue or in like journal text. And him bringing up the whole, being sensitive usually means won't be having sex with you, and then going like, yeah, we should go see a movie, and he is clearly not reading the room, because Max doesn't seem to be into that idea as much. Like, read the room, Warren, and please don't be a weirdo. And there's more Warren stuff to come in future episodes that I will be talking about. So stay tuned for that. And talking about reading a room, in a way, kind of, I totally get why Chloe is so pissed at Max for not contacting her. Like, 5 years of radio silence after what happened to Chloe, and then coming back to Arcadia Bay, you'd think, and like, even in Max's journal, she writes something about, something about seeing Chloe again. I think either in like a note before moving from Seattle back to Arcadia Bay, or in one of her journal entries where she started school there. And like, she just doesn't do it, and then she's there for a while and still hasn't contacted her yet. Like, I want to go as far as say the whole situation in the bathroom probably could have been avoided if Max had talked to Chloe immediately when coming back to Acadia Bay. I'm not sure how, but suddenly I think it could have been something that would have made the thing in the bathroom not happen. And so there's the whole drive to the Price house and getting the tools from the garage and then finding the surveillance cameras that David has put up in the house, which was, when I first played it, such a shocker, and I'm almost sad that this is just a replay of the series and not a full new playthrough without knowing anything about the game, because it didn't come as much of a shock because I already knew it, but it's definitely something that just makes you confirm, like, yo, that guy is a creep and you can't trust him. And I think the game is kind of like playing into that a little bit to maybe do something in future episodes with it. I'm trying to kind of keep my focus on something like that, like picking up on things that I've noticed that I maybe should put more focus on in this new playthrough, in this replay, and see where stuff goes. And that also almost ends the episode, or is coming close to the end of the episode, because then there's the whole hiding in the closet scene when David comes in, and I decided to stay fully hidden because I don't know, there's just something, like, Max has experienced David already. He shouted at her for just walking out of the bathroom at school. Then she saw him shout at Kate. I obviously stepped in because Kate is precious and always needs to be protected. And like, David is so clearly painted as a bad guy here, and then the whole stuff in Chloe's room happens, and when your friend tells you hide and don't come out, things will be even worse when he sees you. I mean, yeah. It felt bad to not do anything after I hit the stay hidden option, and I didn't even go back and rewound the situation to see the other part, to get it back in my memory, because I know from the end screen there's the option that you could have blamed Chloe for the weed or taken the blame, and that would have just probably led to much more trouble, either for Chloe or for Max herself. So I stayed hidden because Chloe told me to do so. And then they leave the room and the house and drive up to the lighthouse, and Max has her next or new vision with the lighthouse, and she sees that newspaper that tells her about the date that the storm will come, and then it starts to snow in a really warm October, because like Chloe's hanging out in a tank top and everyone is still like wearing t-shirts or dresses or short skirts, all kind of stuff like that. So it's obviously warm. Like Chloe said, it's 80 degrees. And suddenly when it starts to snow, she's like, oh my god, Max, tell me everything. And then Sid Meier's obstacle starts playing, and you see like this whole sequence of characters either sitting with the aftermath of the episode or just like having a reaction to what's happening, like being confused at the snow that's suddenly there and everything like that. And this bit suddenly hit me with such a wave of nostalgia. It was insane. I had chills. It was so cool, and I can't wait to continue my journey of replaying Life is Strange. And something that I've now kinda like super appreciate, because I think more games should be kinda episodic, and that's something that I've actually even read on the Life is Strange wiki. Like, there was an interview quoted that the devs even had that in mind, that you can play a game in like bits. Like, you have the episode and you have a clear cut where you can pause and walk away from the game. And that's just hard with bigger games, because I often feel like some moments are not great to pause mid situation. Like, there's always something happening and you don't know if that's a good moment to pause, because context and stuff, you know. And also, like, this was such a good first episode to introduce a world and characters and everything. Like, you already knew Dave is like this paranoid school guard, and there's the rich kids that are also kinda bad people, and you have the good characters that are nice and friends and stuff, and you have that mystery that's slowly getting introduced, and that's just really cool. And these are my thoughts on the first episode. I might change up my sorting of my thoughts when I write them down a little bit, because I felt like this was a bit messy, but I'm definitely also not going to re-record the episode, because that's just too much work. So I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I hope you will come back to listen to the next ones. Feel free to follow me in my social media, especially on Channel 3, the Goodreads for video games. All important links are in the description, and until the next episode. Bye.